This video is for businesses that are going to be spending money on digital advertising in 2024. I'm going to talk about some of the platforms you should be prioritizing and how to think through a framework of where to spend your money, depending upon what type of business you are. And I'm going to talk through some of the big picture, both macroeconomic, as well as just trends in digital advertising that you should be aware of. Now, when I say digital advertising, that means a whole lot of things. And for the interest of not making a 10-hour video, I'm really going to focus on PPC or pay-per-click channels. Channels like Google Ads, Meta Ads, Microsoft Advertising, etc. I'm not going to be talking about podcast ads. I'm not going to be talking about digital billboards or streaming video ads, with the exception of YouTube, but really focusing on the PPC platforms that are most relevant and applicable to the vast majority of small, medium-sized businesses out there that are running ads or thinking about running ads in 2024. Hey, this is John from Stub Group. We are a top digital advertising agency and a premier Google partner. And although a lot of the content that we put out through YouTube and our blog and other channels is Google specific, we also do a ton of work outside of Google through platforms like Meta and Microsoft Advertising, LinkedIn Ads, and so forth. And ultimately, our job is to help our clients dominate the platforms that we're leveraging on their behalf and help them make money online. Let's talk macroeconomics for a minute and talk about how you should be looking at the economy and trying to understand how the economy is going to impact your target audience and ultimately the advertising that you're using to reach your target audience. So I'm not going to pretend or try to predict what the economy will do in 2024. There are people who are way, way smarter than me and have way more information than I have who are doing that and who are predicting wildly different things. And the reality is, and I think what there is plenty of consensus on, is that there's a ton of uncertainty about what the economy is going to look like in 2024, both in the United States as well as globally. It's been a weird year with 2023 with inflation doing fascinating things, with stimulus money running out, with rates going up like crazy, and with yet other things like the job market seemingly being very strong, with inflation seemingly starting to come down, with us going in 2024 into an election year and all of that brings. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. And what that means in 2024 is that we as advertisers and as businesses need to be monitoring this very closely and looking to understand how is this impacting our target audience, their discretionary funds, their buying behaviors, and so forth. For example, in 2023, we saw some different patterns, and this isn't necessarily true across every single client, across every single industry, but definitely some of the things we saw were that businesses with higher price point items that are more in the discretionary spending category struggled. They had challenges because consumers were spending less, at least at times, on some of those discretionary areas. We also saw businesses in the used area see increases in business as seemingly people switched from purchasing new to purchasing used, trying to save some dollars here and there. Again, lots of competing trends, competing realities, but those are a couple of things that we noticed in 2023, some of the things that we're monitoring in 2024. But at the end of the day, you need to understand, again, how is this impacting your target audience? And then how does that need to impact the messaging that you're using in your advertising? For example, hey, people are getting more price conscious. We need to pick up on that in our advertising, in our ad copy, as well as in what even we're promoting from a product mix perspective, from a price point perspective, the discounts and offers that we give. We just need to stay on top of these things, be reading the information, be reading the tea leaves, as they say, when it comes to looking at how people are engaging with our own websites and products as well, and iterating and updating our advertising strategy and offers based upon that. The ad platforms themselves are emphasizing profit and efficiency. And we're no longer living in a world of zero interest rates. We are living in a world where stakeholders, where stock owners, investors are emphasizing, hey, we need to be efficient as companies. We need to make profit as companies. And you see this in mass layoffs across companies like Google, like Microsoft, Spotify, Amazon, you name it. The majority of the major tech companies have been emphasizing efficiency, have been cutting headcount, and have been cutting everywhere they can to bring their margin economics up, to bring their profit up, to bring their efficiency up. What does this mean for advertisers? Well, it means a number of things. One big thing is that it's impacting the support that advertisers are receiving. So one place where there's significant headcount at these companies, think Google, for example, think Meta, for example, is on the support side of things. The people who pick up the phone or who see the email come through, see the chat message come through when you have a problem with your campaigns. And so we've seen in 2023 additional outsourcing to other countries of this support and support teams. We've seen more automation and AI being leveraged to respond to as many queries as possible, making Google, for example, making it harder to reach live people. We've even seen impacts on the Google Partner Program and Premier Google Partner Program, with fewer agencies having advanced support from Google, with Google kind of increasing the benchmarks and thresholds for who can get that higher level support and investment from a human resources perspective at Google. I believe in 2024 we are going to continue to see that, because it's going to be continued requirements on the part of stakeholders to see that efficiency, to see that reduction in headcount, to see more from less when it comes from looking at revenue versus headcount required to achieve that revenue. And that's going to, again, impact the advertisers, because it's going to be harder to get the help that we need at times from a support perspective. And I think you're going to see even more value in agencies like Stub Group, not to toot our own horn, so to speak, but just in people who have a significant level of third-party experience leveraging the platforms, and who also have access to more advanced support teams within the platforms, because they're managing greater amounts of spend than an individual advertiser is managing, and who can then help to mitigate some of those realities of the lack of support that some advertisers are seeing now from the platforms, and I think we'll continue to see less and less of in 2024. I also think that in 2024, we're going to see tracking and attribution of advertising get more difficult. I talk about this quite a bit in the video that we put out about how Google Ads is changing in 2024. So I'm not going to rehash all of that in this video. You can go watch that section of that video to see more information. But to recap, you've got things like Google Chrome planning to deprecate third-party cookies in Q3, I think it is, of 2024, and just the continued push towards more privacy, more siloing, 2024 being the first full year of GA4 replacing Universal Analytics and so forth. And so I think you're going to see different things in the third-party attribution side of things. Some companies are going to be really impacted by how cookies are continuing to go away. You're going to see probably continued gains for some of the big platforms like Google and Facebook that have such wide reach and can create first-party tracking and use things like enhanced conversions to try and fill in some of the gaps in tracking. But you're going to continue to see this need for understanding across the spectrum of digital advertising, how are the ad dollars translating back into revenue dollars, and how are the ad dollars within each platform impacting everything? How is the money you're spending on Facebook then impacting people coming directly to your site from Facebook, as well as people then searching you on Google and coming from Google, and then you're remarketing to them across other platforms? It's hard, frankly, to understand, and it's going to continue getting hard, and it's going to continue to be different creative solutions and really kind of a piecing together of data points and signals to try to understand as accurately and comprehensively as possible how those ad dollars are translating into revenue dollars. I believe that AI is going to have a massive impact on business and on digital advertising in 2024. This is not new. Again, AI has been a part of things for a long time. 2023 is really the year where it's become more understood by people because of them being able to engage with things like ChatGPT and actually seeing and experiencing these language learning models. But AI is already integrated in so many aspects of what we do, and is going to continue to be. A couple areas in which I think it's going to continue to change in 2024 is, first of all, how people search for information. You already see ChatGPT, Google Bard, etc., becoming a destination for some searches that would historically have taken place on Google or on Bing. Now, I don't think that we're going to see a massive shift in market share from search to these language learning models in 2024. I think old habits die hard, and I think there are also still, inherent inaccuracies and flaws with some of the language learning models that people engage with. And so sometimes there's also kind of this dance between, hey, part of the journey is within ChatGPT, and then it goes kind of to the next step to Google or to Bing, for example. I think we're going to see a lot of that. And of course, we also see a lot of integration with these AI language learning models being directly input into search engines. So Google is working on this and is already experimenting. Bing has incorporated ChatGPT into their search engine. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, learning in 2024, and I think a lot of development also of what does it look like to put ads within these platforms? How do these platforms monetize this traffic that is going through these searches that historically would have gone to the 10 blue links on Google, for example? And I think we're going to see more monetization and experimentation around what that's going to look like, what the ecosystem is going to look like moving forward. So expect to see that, and expect to see changes there. You're also going to see changes in how ads are served through AI. Take Google, for example. Of course, AI is a massive component, especially if you're using any kind of what they call smart bidding strategy, where you're feeding data to Google about conversions and then letting Google make decisions about bidding based upon those conversions and based upon the millions of signals that Google has about every single search when it takes place. You're going to see more of that, and you're going to see more of that across the display network, across YouTube, those types of more push marketing, top of funnel marketing as well, especially as cookies continue to go away, as third-party tracking continues to get harder and harder to implement, and as the platforms try to leverage AI to be as strategic as possible in targeting without creating privacy concerns. You're also going to see changes in how ads themselves are created through AI. There's incredible developments with imagery, with video, obviously with text, and I think advertisers and businesses are going to continue to be able to leverage those things and layer the right guidelines and human quality control and so forth on top of that to create some really cool, compelling, dynamic, and scaled advertising in 2024. And you're also going to see impacts of AI on support, which I talked about a little bit earlier in this video, which is that all the platforms, they want to save money and be efficient and use AI to handle as much of the support needs as possible. When you have a question, you need to reach out and get a solution. And so you're going to see more and more automation when it comes to things like reviewing questions, reviewing ad disapproval appeals, reviewing account suspension appeals, so forth and so on. AI is going to be the name of the game in 2024. It's been talked about a lot in 2023. It's really, I think, going to be layered into things in 2024. Next, I'm going to run through some of the primary and some of the minor PPC or pay-per-click platforms as well. So we're talking Google Ads, Meta Ads, Microsoft Advertising, LinkedIn Ads, etc., etc. I'm going to talk through each of these, some at more length, some a little bit more briefly, but giving you some perspective and ideas about how you should be thinking about these platforms, how we're seeing these platforms perform for our clients, and hopefully help you think through whether or not you should invest some of your ad spend in 2024 across some of these, or hey, all of these channels. Before I get into every individual channel, let me just talk about remarketing, or you could call it retargeting as a whole for a little bit. So remarketing, retargeting, this is the idea of reaching specific people with advertising based upon how they've engaged with you. Maybe they've engaged with your website, they visited your website, maybe they've taken specific actions on your website, like adding products to your cart, maybe they've watched your YouTube videos, clicked on your Facebook ad, etc. These are generally the warmest people from a funnel perspective that you have to reach with, because they've already engaged with you, they've already shown interest, they've already to some extent qualified themselves or have understanding of who you are because they've spent at least some time engaging with your brand. And so they are warm, as opposed to a cold audience, which is someone who has never seen you before and you're just going out and hitting with ads to create awareness. The beauty of remarketing is that it's generally cost effective because people who've engaged with you is a way smaller audience than anybody in your target demographic or behavior or search bucket or whatever. And so you can cost effectively remarket to people. It doesn't have to be expensive. And the idea is that you want to reach people who are thinking about you, have engaged with you, have kind of qualified themselves, but haven't pulled the trigger and are maybe thinking about pulling the trigger, haven't pulled it for some reason, on actually purchasing your product and your service. And so the idea with remarketing is strategically reaching these people and continuing to show them information, continuing to create compelling messaging about why they should come back to your website, re-engage with you, and convert. So remarketing is beautiful because you can do it across so many platforms. You can have your Google Pixel, your Facebook Pixel, your LinkedIn Pixel, etc., all on your website, and you can create an audience of people who've reached your website from any method, and then retarget to those people on whatever platform they're using. And so that's one of the beauties of these different platforms, is you can really create a situation where, as people navigate across many different platforms, you are navigating with them. You are reaching them, and you want to, be strategic about your messaging. Often you want to be consistent with your messaging across platforms, so they're seeing consistent messaging, and they realize, wait, these guys are legit. They're everywhere I go. You can annoy people too, so be careful. Don't be creepy. But there's so much power with remarketing that you should definitely be taking advantage of it and really thinking about, hey, what different platforms can I strategically leverage to show remarketing ads to the people that I'm getting to my website from whatever method you're using to drive traffic to your website. Google Ads in 2024. Is an exciting place. I'm not going to dive too deep as part of this video because I just made a long video all about what's going to change and what to expect in Google Ads in 2024. So I highly recommend that you go and check that out. But Google Ads continues to be the place where I generally recommend that digital advertisers start. So some of the lowest hanging fruit, which is what I like to call it, is usually on the Google platform, Google Search, Google Shopping if you're in the e-commerce space. And then, of course, you can work your way up from there, work your way up in the funnel with Google Display, Gmail, Discovery, YouTube. YouTube is a beautiful, beautiful platform. And of course, when you do remarketing, you are reaching warm audiences. You can reach cold audiences through Performance Max Demand Gen. You can reach cold and warm audiences through search, through shopping, etc. The Google Ads is a very, very important place to be if you are in digital advertising. Now, the way to think through whether Google Ads is a good fit for you is, I would argue it's a good fit for almost every business, but which channels within Google Ads you use are really going to depend upon what your business is. So if you have a product or a service that people are searching for, then Google Search and Google Shopping are generally going to be good places for you because you're able to use the primary search engine in the world to reach people who are searching for what you sell and get them to your website. Now, obviously, there's going to be situations where you can't cost effectively do that. If you're selling umbrellas and you have no margin and there's already 1 billion people selling umbrellas, then you probably are not going to, effectively use Google Ads or at least search and shopping to sell your product. But most of the time, if you're selling something that people are searching for, you want to start out in those locations. If you are selling something that people maybe aren't searching for, don't know to search for, let's say you're an apparel brand and you're making awareness, creating awareness, and you need to kind of go out there and build a brand, for example. Google Search and Shopping may not be the best place for you. It may not be cost effective. That's where YouTube, Google Display, and of course other platforms that we'll talk about here like Meta are often going to be good fits for what I call push marketing. What I would call pull marketing is, hey, someone searches for something and you pull them into your website. Push marketing is you're putting an ad in front of someone, let's say on something like Facebook, because you think it might be relevant to them based upon their demographics, their behavior, their interests that Facebook has categorized them for, etc. But you're pushing and hoping that they're going to be interested and then come to you. Meta ads, of course, is Facebook ads and Instagram advertising. And a lot of people, I think, are asking, is Meta ads dead in 2024? A lot of people have tried to use Facebook, Instagram, and have had challenges since the iOS 14 updates a couple years ago. And the reality is that we are in a very different world than we were pre-iOS 14, when Facebook's targeting abilities and Instagram's targeting abilities were just so amazing, so razor sharp. It's a lot more challenging to do the kind of targeting that we used to be able to do in the world as it exists now. That said, Meta ads is very much not dead in 2024. We still are seeing great results for many clients on Meta. It really depends on how you approach it, as with all things, how you approach it, what your business is, what your advertising, what your messaging is, what your creative is. Creative is so important across these platforms. Video, for example, is incredibly important for many advertisers. We often see way, way better results for video than we do for other types of ads on Facebook and on Instagram. And again, it also comes back to what is it that you're advertising. If you are a plumber, Facebook is not going to be a place I recommend you spend a lot of time, because most people who need a plumber need them right now because their sink is leaking, or their toilet just blew up, or whatever the case may be. They're not viewing you as a lifestyle brand and liking all of your links and posts on Facebook and so forth. But if you are an apparel brand and people do kind of view you as lifestyle type of advertiser, and they love the imagery that you're putting out, and they're like, oh, that looks cool, or hey, I'm going to share this with my friend, could be the perfect place for you. So success on Meta, success Facebook, Instagram within Meta, very much depend upon what you're advertising, and then again, how you advertise. And I will say that with many of the changes in targeting on those platforms, you have to put more trust into the kind of the automated targeting within the platforms. And by and large, we generally see that work better than a ton of custom manual targeting on those platforms. Now, there's always an exception to every rule, and hey, leave a comment if you're seeing really custom targeting work fantastic for you on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to hear about that. But by and large, because of the limitations that we have now from a targeting perspective, we generally see better results when we put a little more trust, for lack of a better word, in some of the more automated targeting, and really focus on the creative and making the right creative for the audience we want to reach. And then as Facebook, as Instagram sees how people are engaging with that creative, if we've done a good job of making creative that appeals to our target demographic and our target audience, then Facebook's going to show that more and more to those people, because those people are engaging, and you get a virtuous cycle of reaching the right people and of kind of informing the automated targeting that Facebook and that Instagram are leveraging in this post iOS 14 world. I am going to give a special call out to Facebook messaging campaigns in 2024. This is not a new type of ad. This ad has been around for many years. I couldn't tell you exactly how many years, but it's been around for quite a while. But I continue to see some really impressive results for some of our clients, and some really exciting results for campaigns we're running right now and that we're working on scaling as we go into 2024. Facebook messaging campaign is pretty straightforward. It's running an ad where the call to action for that ad is to actually start a conversation through Facebook Messenger, or you can link up some third-party chat systems like live chat, for example. But ultimately, someone taps or clicks on your ad and they start a conversation with you. And this isn't a good fit for every advertiser. It really depends upon what it is that you're selling. Whether it's a service, whether it's a product, what the price point is, whether you have team members in place to be able to support the conversations, because that's a must. You've got to be able to have conversations with people, and you say you've got to have people who can respond quickly and professionally and well, and that's not a good fit for every business. But if you have the ability to do that and handle those conversations, I strongly encourage you to try it out. If you have a product where it makes sense for people to have a conversation, maybe there's questions that they need to ask that you need to answer. Maybe there are pain points that you can help kind of point out and walk people through. You can provide a little bit of a white glove or concierge service through that. And people are interested in having chat conversations, and it gets them engaged in a way that any other type of ad doesn't, other than maybe something that encourages people to place a phone call. And hey, a lot of people these days are way more likely to have a chat conversation than a phone call. They don't have the time for the phone, they're not comfortable on the phone, but we chat, we text constantly all day long, and so cool, they'll jump on chat with you and get off to the races. And then sometimes you can turn that into a phone call as well, once you've established rapport and solved some of their pain points. So fun little call out there. Definitely still see a lot of opportunity for Facebook Messenger campaigns in 2024. Microsoft advertising in 2024. Primarily when I say Microsoft advertising, I'm talking about ads run on the Bing search engine. There are other aspects of Microsoft advertising. There are other search partners and Microsoft websites and content and so forth where you can show native ads and things. But most of the traffic, most of the volume that most advertisers are going to leverage Microsoft for will be serving search and shopping ads on the Bing search engine. And historically, our recommendation for most clients has generally been, hey, let's use Google, get Google dialed in, and then expand to Microsoft, because usually we see similar or better cost per conversion, ROAS, from Microsoft as we do on Google. Obviously, way less search volume on Bing compared to Google, especially on mobile devices, but still enough volume to make it worth us spending the time to manage that as a platform and manage ad spend on behalf of a client. I would say that these days it's getting more and more hit and miss with the Microsoft advertising platform. We're seeing some concerning trends with accounts that did well for a long time. Microsoft just not doing as well, and just seeing challenges with the performance from Microsoft, with the relevancy of the search terms, with the relevancy of how they're matching search terms to keywords, and how they're leveraging match types and so forth. I'm certainly not saying don't run Microsoft. There's still many of our clients we're leveraging Microsoft for, but I am saying really pay close attention. And I'm seeing concerning trends, and there's certainly been some of our clients where we collected enough data over enough time to say, hey, for this client, we're going to take a step back from Microsoft for the time being because the return is just not there. We're going to keep focusing on other platforms where there's more return. So I think it's still a great platform to test for most advertisers. It's still something, like I said, that we're testing for most of our new clients that come on board, and we still leverage it for a lot of our existing clients, but be aware of some of those concerns and realities as well, and let the data dictate what you do for your own advertising campaigns in 2024. LinkedIn ads in 2024. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn advertising because I love the targeting abilities. There's so much you can do, especially if you're in the B2B space within LinkedIn, targeting people who work for specific companies, who have specific job types. It's really one of the, if not the best platform for hyper-specific targeting in the B2B world. But performance often leaves a lot to be desired, frankly, especially from the ad side of things. And there's plenty of campaigns we've run for clients where it's like, hey, this should work well because of the targeting that we have available to us, and it just falls flat. I've also seen some good things from LinkedIn, and so I definitely think that it's worth testing in 2024. There's different strategies that we've seen work better than others. We've seen some really good things from kind of document ads, I think they call them on LinkedIn. Essentially, think of it as a lead form that someone can fill out to get a document. Could be a case study, a white paper. Usually it's going to be a white paper, something of value, and you're collecting information. Email address, phone number, for example, in exchange for giving that information. It's not the warmest of leads because, it's someone engaging for a specific purpose. They want this information, and so they're exchanging their information for the information. They're not necessarily saying, hey, sign me up for a quote request right now, but it's giving you the opportunity to engage with them, to reach out, to see what they're interested in, to, get them onto your email newsletter list, for example, and to build a relationship with the right people that over time you can nurture into sales. So maybe not always going to be direct response, but for nurturing perspectives, it can be really effective. We've also seen some really interesting results from hyper-targeted creative. So targeting people who work for specific companies and leveraging that information, creating ad creative per company that's hyper-oriented towards people who work for that company and who can, really compel people of, oh, hey, that ad's for me. Let me click on that and engage with that. And so, that's a little bit more difficult to scale. It depends upon what type of business you are, how many businesses are in your target audience, and so forth. But we've seen some interesting results from that. So LinkedIn, not always a slam dunk from a performance perspective. You got to be creative and really think through strategically what you're trying to do with LinkedIn, but definitely some really amazing targeting abilities and still a lot of opportunity in LinkedIn advertising in 2024. Twitter ads, now X ads, are definitely a controversial topic in 2023 and 2024. A lot of perspective, a lot of advertisers who have left the platform for ideological reasons. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to say whether you should or shouldn't be on the platform. I'm just going to say what we're seeing and what the opportunity is. And the reality is that because a lot of advertisers have left the platform, that reduces competition for the advertisers who remain, the advertisers who want to test it out, which means lower cost per clicks and more access to audience. So from a performance perspective, there's opportunity there. And there's still a massive audience of people who are leveraging Twitter. You definitely, think through who your target audience is and whether or not they're likely to be actively engaged on Twitter, on X, and think through what the targeting capabilities are. There's quite a few targeting capabilities. You can do keyword targeting, contextual targeting, remarketing, obviously, a lot of different options with X. And so it's definitely a platform to consider in 2024. And it's also a platform that has become a placement, or is becoming a placement for Google Ads, which is very interesting. Google and X have a relationship now where Google Ads can appear on Twitter, on X, as a placement essentially. Created a video about that a few months back that you can go and watch for more information about how that works and whether or not you should opt in or out of that feature if you're running Google Ads. But definitely a trend that we're seeing across a number of platforms that have a harder time themselves of connecting with advertisers, who are then creating relationships with the big boys like Google, like Amazon, who have so many advertiser relationships, and then taking advantage of the additional distribution that X has, for example, and then these relationships that Google has, and marrying those together to try and get the best of both worlds. I feel like Reddit is one of those dark horse platforms, one of those platforms that doesn't get talked about much when people are talking about advertising platforms, but has a massive audience, a massive number of people who are leveraging the platform, and some really fascinating targeting capabilities because there's so much context within Reddit. You can do contextual targeting, keyword targeting, to reach people who are looking at questions that you have solutions to, or who, based upon the subreddits you're spending time on, are inherently relevant to the product or service that you advertise. So I've seen some really interesting results from an advertising perspective on Reddit. Again, it's one of those platforms that is not as much leveraged as the big platforms like Google and Facebook and so forth, but really interesting results. And I've seen outsized results, especially for people in the tech world, for example, who are selling, let's say, SaaS products. There's a lot of relevant subreddits and things on Reddit that you can engage with to get people over to your website to look at your SaaS product, technical related products. But it's far beyond tech. It's, everyone, every niche, every market is represented in some way on Reddit, and so definitely some interesting opportunities to test. I would say if you're in the informational space, if you're in the tech space, those are great fits to consider Reddit. And hey, if you see a lot of engagement on a subreddit or a thread that relates to, again, a question that you answer, a product that you sell, hop on there. Consider hopping on there and seeing what kind of results you can generate from people who are engaging with that content, then see your ad in kind of a native way, and then get over to your website. I can't talk about every single PPC platform as part of today's video. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I can't make this a 10-hour video, but you've got other platforms like Pinterest, Etsy, Quora, Snapchat, where they all have their advertising programs, and there's opportunities. I consider these to be a little bit more in the niche space. Snapchat, maybe I wouldn't say in the niche space. I feel like Snapchat is honestly probably more of the kind of the big good place for big brands who are just trying to reach people everywhere and who can run kind of bigger advertising campaigns across every single platform. But all these platforms have merit depending upon the products or services that you advertise. Pinterest, for example, can be fantastic for advertisers in the home decor space, or anything kind of art related, anything where people are creating boards and pinning things, and those things are related maybe to the products that you sell or the services that you sell, and you can identify relevant people based upon what they're interested in tagging and pinning, and then get them to your website through advertising. So there's some cool opportunities there. You also see, just like I mentioned with X, where X has a relationship with Google, and X is now distributing Google Ads, you have similar partnerships rolling out for some of these other PPC platforms, like Pinterest and Snapchat, I believe it is, where Amazon, where they've partnered with Amazon, and where they are essentially going to become placements for Amazon, where Amazon can serve ads from Amazon's advertising network, which is massive and growing, across these other placements. And again, that's great for these channels, because they don't have to go out and create all the advertising relationships with individual advertisers themselves. And it's great for Amazon because they get more places to serve ads, and therefore can make more money, can grow their network, and become more of a destination for advertisers who do or who want to have direct relationships with Amazon. Amazon has a massive ad network that continues to grow, and a lot of people don't realize that it's an ad network that can be leveraged beyond just advertising products that are on Amazon. A lot of people, when they think of Amazon ads, if they think of Amazon ads, they think of the sponsored listings that show up when you search on Amazon, and you see a bunch of the first options are, sponsored, and you can click through to those specific product pages, and then when you get to the product pages, you see more related products that are sponsored and so forth. And that's a big ecosystem. And if you're an e-commerce company that's on Amazon, more and more you have to run that advertising in order to actually get the traffic that you need. And there's lots of perspectives about that, lots of frustration I know from Amazon advertisers who feel like they're paying all their money to Amazon when you add up fees and advertising expenses within Amazon and so forth. But separate from that, you also have Amazon and Amazon's sites like Twitch, like IMDb, like Freevee, for example, where you can show what I call third-party advertising. And earlier in 2023, Amazon opened up their self-serve platform so that anybody can go and create essentially an Amazon advertising account and can run ads on Amazon and Amazon's properties off that point, that direct off of Amazon. So you could run advertising for your own website on Amazon, on Twitch, etc. And that is really, really fascinating because Amazon knows so much about us, because Amazon knows what we buy, when we buy it. Amazon knows, hey, we're moving, we have children, our ages of our children, because hey, we just stopped purchasing diapers, now we're purchasing toddler clothing or 3-year-old clothing, whatever. There's so much information that Amazon has about our user behavior, not to mention seeing how we engage with other properties like, again, Freevee, Twitch, IMDb, many other platforms, websites that Amazon owns. And so wealth targeting data, I've spent a lot of time trawling through the different categories and be like, oh, hey, we can target people who do that. That's fascinating. And so a lot of opportunities with Amazon advertising in 2024. TikTok is a fascinating platform, whether you're looking at legislation and how that's impacting it, whether you are looking at just the raw number of people who use TikTok, whether you look at the data coming out about how TikTok and Instagram, for example, are being leveraged more and more as search engines themselves, especially by the younger generation. There's a lot of interesting things with TikTok. From an advertising perspective, we've run quite a few advertising campaigns on TikTok for different clients, and again, definitely hit and miss. I would say attribution in particular is challenging. A lot of people are, scrolling through TikTok, and they might see something, they're not necessarily going to click on the ad and engage. And it can be difficult to, again, track back and see really what impact TikTok is having on sales. And that goes back to the bigger question of attribution and tracking and what that looks like in 2024. But definitely an interesting channel. Again, I think a really perfect fit for some products and services over others. It's definitely more in that kind of push marketing, that very visual marketing, that influencer, user-generated content type of content and so forth. It's very creative oriented, so if you don't have creative that's really well tailored to TikTok, you're probably not going to do very well on TikTok because it is all about the creative. But definitely some opportunities depending upon the brand and what you sell. I've also seen the impact, even just from an organic perspective, for clients of going viral on TikTok. Someone with a bit of audience on TikTok making a TikTok about a product, and then you see the spike of sales that directly correlates with that TikTok going out. So I've seen firsthand the power of TikTok, but I would say there's definitely still a lot of things that are being figured out from an advertising perspective. It's not a default platform I would recommend to everyone, but definitely a platform I'd recommend to maybe more sophisticated advertisers who understand the value of investing in a higher funnel and who understand the reality of not being able to directly attribute sales back to the advertising platform necessarily, but who are still looking to grow their overall awareness and brand and looking at things from a media efficiency ratio perspective and looking to see how are the dollars they're investing into TikTok potentially coming back in terms of top line revenue over time. In conclusion, 2024 is an exciting time to be in business and an exciting time to be in digital advertising. There are tremendous opportunities and there are tremendous unknowns. And look, when there are unknowns, it can be frustrating, it can be scary, but there's also opportunity because your competitors, the rest of the market, is facing those same uncertainties. And when you can capitalize on things, when you can test new things, when you can be on the cutting edge of changes as they roll out in user behavior, in platforms, you can win. You can capture market share. There's so many opportunities to be captured. So a lot of exciting things. Again, it can also be overwhelming to the small and medium-sized business owner or marketing manager in particular, because there's so many places you can spend money. There's so many places you can reach audience. And you're like, hey, should I do Google? Should I do Facebook? Should I do Reddit? Should I do LinkedIn? Should I on and on and on? Hopefully some of the ideas that I've shared in today's video are helpful. And ultimately, if you want more, specialized information specific to your business and your model, our team here at Stub Group would love to speak with you, do a free consultation, understand what is it that you're trying to accomplish, what are your business goals, what are your pain points, and let's talk through what are our recommendations in terms of what channels are the best fit for you, how much should you be investing, what should your KPIs look like, and so forth. If you're interested in that type of conversation, reach out through stubgroup.com. And at the very least, I'd love if you could tap subscribe on the channel here. We're putting out a lot of information, spending a lot of time doing so. I hope it's valuable to people. Want to keep putting it out. And if you tap subscribe, that helps us and also helps you continue to get this information as we release it. So thank you for spending your time with me today. And until next time, take care.